The larger game, Celeste, has a lot of story and a lot of atmosphere in it. Didn't really exist in the Pico 8 version. It started off as a much more simple, like, we know it's about someone climbing a mountain, we know that it's really difficult, but we were kind of just making a hard platformer, and the limitations of Pico 8 are quite strict. You know, we're limited to about 30 screens, limited to like 16 colors. So it was basically just us being like, let's just make something fun. So we made that little game and we put it out on the internet, and a lot of people really enjoyed it, especially speedrunners, and they actually played it at Games Done Quick. It was a few months later, I can't remember when, but we just decided like, oh, let's maybe just try making a slightly larger game, but still a small game in like 2 or 3 months, just to take this, and like we started getting new ideas for what we wanted to do with that world, and we liked the character, and we liked the little mountain and stuff. And we said, okay, let's spend like 3 months and make a larger game in something we're more familiar with. Yeah, so Matt and I started it together, and we were working on it mostly ourselves for a few months. At the time I was working with Pedro Namora. They were the same artists who worked on Towerfall with Matt, so we knew them through that fairly well. And I was actually working with them for a few years on my game Skytorn that never got finished. Around the same time, I think we started talking to Lena about like, we'd heard her music just through SoundCloud and seen her at events like GDC previously, and we're like, oh man, like we really like her SoundCloud stuff and like the work she's doing. So we just hit her up and asked her about it, and she was keen to jump on too. And then Power Up Audio, the sound designers, they're the same sound designers who were working with Matt on Towerfall, and I also had them working on Skytorn. So it is kind of like a lot of people were from Vancouver, and people that we'd known for a while, or people that we really liked their work. I would say Chapter 1 is kind of what we envisioned, like when we were talking about making a 3-month-long project. Chapter 1 is really like what that was. We started doing that, and we decided we wanted more chapters, and we wanted to explore this game further because it felt like there was a lot there that we could do with it. That's when it really branched out. And I'd say that the different chapters really started taking shape. We started like getting pretty far into even Chapter 3 before we really knew what it all was, and even before the story had really come together, we knew that there was going to be a bit more story. We had the granny character at the start of the game who laughs at you, but we didn't really know where that was going until I'd say around Chapter 3, and then things started falling into place, and we started going actually back and kind of redoing some of the dialogue and going, oh, this is what this is now, and Matt really led the way on that. He really had kind of a strong vision and focus on that. Yeah, even the character that's like part of you, the kind of the darker side of you, she originally was a gameplay mechanic. She wasn't, she started off as something that mechanically was interesting, and then, when the story started really taking shape and we understood better what the game actually was and what it was about, we actually went back and started adding her as a proper character. What would often happen too is Matt would skeleton out levels while everyone else was like, focusing on catching up with art and finishing various things, and we were like planning kind of where things are going, and he would just be like in the meantime kind of just like making the skeletons of levels. So sometimes you get pretty far ahead, and then we come back and be like, okay, so what actually emotionally like happens here, and fill it in. I'd say that changed by around, I think, Chapter 6. I think, yeah, it really comes down to like just making sure that when someone picks it up, it's fun immediately, especially like if it's an action game. You need to be able to just like, hit a button and have it feel good, like you're like, I get this. It's definitely, it took a lot of iteration to get there, and it's not something that happens immediately, but just kind of like, we just watch people play a lot, and whenever something felt kind of weird or kind of wrong, we would, go back and tune it over and over and over again until it really just felt like people were flowing as best they could. And you don't want to get rid of everything. You don't want to polish off all the edges and make it so that there's nothing interesting anymore. But yeah, I think it just has to be, it just has to feel really good to pick up immediately, because the whole game is just about the moment to moment. I mean, that's definitely where playtesting came in a lot, is because it was not always smooth for people. And I mean, it's still not for everybody, but we tried to make it as smooth as possible, like the learning curve as nice as possible, and still teach them and still have it so you're feeling like you're learning and getting better. But the nice thing about a platforming game is you can basically hand it to someone, a week into making it and be like, how does it feel so far? And they can play it. You only need like a few levels for it to like, okay, I can feel this. And we'd have friends come by for hours at a time, and just kind of like, we would watch them play it and make changes. And then we would live update it. So we'd be like, okay, that's not working. Just stop for 1 second. We tweak it, and then we'll commit it and pull it down, and we'll auto reload the game and have you try that again. If we never implemented like analytics, maybe you had something where you could see where people were dying a lot or something, you could kind of get a good idea, but I think it's a lot better to kind of see like where people emotionally are and like what they're getting hung up on. You can just see it visually, and that's a lot more useful. I think oftentimes feedback from players, like verbally, it can be good, but in an action game that's all about feel, it's much better to like watch what they're doing and what's really working for them and what's not, than it is for them to say like, I didn't like this or like this, and you don't really know why. You know, we hoped that it would do okay and stuff, but we weren't expecting the reception that we got at all. Everyone has a lot of input and influence, and it was a very collaborative experience. But Matt, I would definitely put as the role as director. I mean, I was his roommate for the whole of Celeste, so we were just, you know, hanging out in the living room talking about it every day. My goal personally with it, besides, you know, making a good game, was to be like, I want to keep living, making games, and hopefully this can, you know, and that it definitely did that, which was awesome. Yeah, it was really cool. I hope we can like keep making stuff that people like.